And we're live, Vincent and I, this time to discuss the no-hike laws in, is it Georgia that you are concerned
Yeah,
about?
yeah. Well, on the 29th of March, which was the Saturday that just passed, this Sunday that just passed, we had Education and Sharing Day, where everyone commemorates Rabbi Schneerson's birthday. And the federal proclamation did not mention no-hide laws, but so far, several cities, towns, states, counties have declared the no-hide laws in these proclamations, one of which was Georgia. And Georgia stated that they were sacred responsibilities. So I think that's a very heavy word to use, sacred responsibilities, because a responsibility, what does that mean? You're responsible. Okay, you're responsible for the Noahide laws. What does that mean? In what way are you responsible? Usually responsibility comes with incentives that you have to do something, or deterrence to stop you from doing something. A responsibility is something you know you'll get in trouble if you don't do it. Okay. Or there'll be consequences if you don't do it.
Mm-hmm.
So
Yeah, but
I think
how seriously do they take it? I mean, are they just, basically pretending?
well,
It's
they're,
like,
they're taking it serious. They're taking it seriously enough to use the word Noahide. They obviously care enough about it, and to use the word sacred responsibility, to put those two things together. A responsibility is bad enough, but a sacred responsibility, now you're giving it, the state is imbuing it with sacredness, with holiness.
Yeah, but they're supposed to be God's laws for Gentiles.
Okay, okay. In what world in America is any religion's commandments called sacred responsibilities? In America,
Well, I mean, Americans are a little confused, right? That I mean, it is on record that Justice Brewer said America is a Christian nation, and then you say things like, "We are one nation under God," and then your currency actually says, "In God we trust." So, I know you're up in arms about it, but um,
well,
it's not new, is it?
it's not happening with anyone else's religion. It's only the Noahide laws. It's not like they're claiming everyone's religion is sacred like this, or responsibilities. And I think that everyone would be up in arms, at least now, if they had mentioned Sharia. If Georgia mentioned Sharia laws are sacred responsibility to the American citizen, I think people would fly off the handle and go into an outrage. And, they wouldn't care how legal it was or how binding it was. They would just be outraged that the government, is even making this kind of statement.
So I guess Americans need a national conversation about whether they are one nation under God, or if it's just a nice little label to make them feel, you know, um, maybe it's a compromise. Like, well, we know they are religious Americans, and so we should, be nice about their religion, but we're not going to follow any divine laws because that would be stupid. So we're just going to keep saying that we are one nation under God, trusting in God. But in reality, we will just carry on making laws that Congress wants to make. And maybe that's always been the way.
Well, I
We
think people
want
are
the
trying to change that. At least Chabad Lubavitch is trying to change it. I guess they're trying to change how we go about making our laws eventually one day.
have they?
And well, they obviously want to change the way things are done. I mean, they obviously would like a Noahide framework to be used in decision making. Yes.
But that would mean the execution of idolaters and blasphemers.
But
So,
not right
what
away.
is
Not that most extreme that interpretation is not going to be rolled out for a long time. The rabbis are not. I don't think the rabbis are going to start executing anyone anytime soon. It's going to be more diplomacy and sweet talking, and they're not going to be executing people.
Okay, because that would be going against the first Amendment, right? So they are mindful of that. I mean, why were the 7 no-hide laws stated one by one and then mysteriously removed? Because someone in the legal department thought, oh, hey, that would infringe our First Amendment, so we better be removing it and calling it
Well, they're
education and
bringing
sharing.
it back. They're bringing it back to on the state and city level. They're doing that now. The state and
Have
city
you
level is.
checked out? Okay, so have you checked out your local schools and how Education and Sharing Day is being
Yes,
presented in your state?
yes. Well, yes, it was. I showed you the video of it being taught in the schools. Just okay. So I have 2 videos of it being taught in schools so far. I don't have the time to investigate every single school and call them and ask them what they're doing for Education and Sharing Day. When I find it online, I post it. But obviously something's happening. Okay, so it happened the first time because before it's not happening. Okay, well we found one instance where it happened. Yes, they were preaching it in the schools. I don't know if that's the number
You
one
didn't
only
even
time.
know. I mean,
It
you
was in
didn't
New
even notice.
Jersey. It was in New Jersey. Well, that was years ago, and this movement is now. When I was a child, it's 30 years ago. So this movement has expanded since then, and yeah, the
Do you
movement
know
has.
any? Do you know any children of school age within your family?
No, but it's not all just about school. I mean, it's more important that they're going after government officials. They're trying to get into the schools, and they're doing it slowly. Now they have these moments of silence from Chabad and all this other kind of stuff. But they're in with the government officials now. Obviously, Georgia didn't just fall into calling the Noahide laws spiritual responsibilities. That there was obviously some prep work done there.
Well, I mean, it doesn't surprise me that they would be talking in religious terms about these laws because, well, they come from the Jews, don't they? And it's from the
Okay, so
Talmud.
what? So what?
So, what
They're
do you
from the
want to do
Talmud.
about it?
Well, we're updating. Those of us. There's now this new coalition
Between who and who?
between Catholic and Protestant ministries, putting their differences aside
To do what?
to fight the Noahide laws, and one of them would be to make sure that language like this is not passed again, and is indeed
Okay,
repealed.
so who fronts this Catholic Protestant coalition
Well,
against the
I don't know if they
Noahide law?
front it, but it's Yana Ben Noon, Tricat Knight, Maggie Barcelona, I think Jay Slay. I don't know because I'm not really part of that, but
Why not?
I'm not Christian.
Oh. So it's only Christians who are allowed, right? If they're Catholic or Protestant. Okay. Well, so people are organizing against it, but I suppose, the point is that Congress will carry on making laws as it sees fit, because there have been Jews like, what's his name, Arthur Goldberg, who was trying to campaign against gay marriage because his only son was gay and he wanted to, help other Jewish parents in the same position to stop their only son going gay. And he, went to the trouble of starting a chain of conversion therapy clinics, and he was sued. And he's actually in New Jersey. He tried to appeal to the federal level and he was told to, well, forget about it. Right? I've mentioned him to you before.
Mm-hmm.
So this was a Jew who actually wants America to be more Noahide, and they just completely ignored him. So this Noahide nonsense is just window dressing. And you already know it hasn't got the full force of legislation anyway.
I mean, it doesn't have the full force of legislation, but it has a lot of people who like it. And this is just beginning phase. I mean, it's never going to get into schools. Well, it finally did get into the school, okay? We finally saw it in New Jersey. Like, all these people that say it's never going to get anywhere, and then it grows and it grows and it grows. And, eventually you're going to get to the point where you can't vote, you can't root against it. Oh, these are not going to get anywhere. Nothing's going to happen. It's obviously growing. It's not
Well, I mean,
shrinking.
you're
The
saying it's
number of the
growing.
no, yeah, it is obviously growing. I mean, it's being proclaimed in towns and cities and states and counties now. So, it's not shrinking. It's not a shrinking violet. It's a growing power.
Well, I mean, at this time of year, because it's well, as you say, it was on the 29th. So, and then people will forget about it for the rest of the year until it's
Well,
time again.
I'm sure that the Chabad does a lot more than just show up with a document for everyone to sign on March 29th. I mean, there's lots of talks, lots of writing the bill and getting it the way they want it to be, and all this other kind of stuff, and intrigues and meetings. Obviously, you don't have a very firm grasp on how the world works. Pieces of paper like that don't just fall off politicians' desks without lots of pre-work and interaction and discussion.
Yeah, but it's mostly talk and presentation and window dressing.
Okay,
I
well,
mean,
maybe
America is already one nation under God, isn't it?
not
So
and not official. Okay, what? Just because it says that on the dollar bill doesn't mean that that's what the Constitution says.
well, I mean, the
Okay, where in the
Declaration of
Constitution does it say that we're one nation under God?
so it's where does it come from? Where does that
One
phrase
nation under God. The Pledge of
keep
Allegiance in the dollar
occurring?
bill. The Pledge of Allegiance. One nation
Okay,
under God, indivisible. With
there you go. So, how long has this Pledge of Allegiance been used?
I don't know, but do they still say under God? I thought they took that out.
I don't know. You're the American. I mean,
Well, I
this
never
is
said the
what.
pledge. I was a Jehovah's Witness. I didn't say the pledge. I don't even know it.
Okay. So the first version was written in 1885 by Captain George Thatcher Bolt, a Union Army officer in the Civil War who later wrote a book on how to teach patriotism to children in public schools. In 1892, Francis Bellamy revised Bolt's verse as part of a magazine promotion surrounding the World's Columbian Exposition, which celebrated the 400th century of Christopher Columbus's arrival in the Americas. Bellamy, the circulation manager of the Youth Companion magazine, helped persuade the then President Benjamin Harrison to institute Columbus Day as a national holiday and lobbied Congress for a national school celebration of the day. The magazine sent leaflets containing part of Bellamy's pledge of allegiance to schools across the country, and on October 21st, 1892, over 10,000 children recited the verse together. Bellamy's version of the pledge is largely the same as the one formally adopted by Congress 50 years later in 1942. The official name of the Pledge of Allegiance was adopted in 1945. The most recent alteration of its wording came on Flag Day, June 14th, in 1954, when the words "under God" were added. However, Bellamy's authorship has been contested as evidence has come out contradicting his claim. Recital. Congressional sessions open with a recital of the pledge, as do many government meetings at local levels and meetings held by many private organizations. All states except Nebraska, Hawaii, Vermont, and Wyoming require a regularly scheduled recitation of the pledge in public schools. Many states give a variety of exemptions from reciting the pledge, such as California, which requires a patriotic exercise every day, which would be satisfied by the pledge, but it is not enforced. The Supreme Court has ruled in West Virginia State Board of Education versus Barnett that students cannot be compelled to recite the pledge, nor can they be punished for not doing so. In several states, state flag pledges of allegiance are required to be recited after the pledge to the American flag. The current United Flag Code says, "The Pledge of Allegiance to the America. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all." Unquote. should be rendered by standing at attention facing the flag with the right hand over the heart. When not in uniform, men should remove any non-religious headdress with their right hand and hold it at the left shoulder, the hand being over the heart. Persons in uniform should remain silent, face the flag, and render the military salute. Members of the armed forces not in uniform and veterans may render the military salute in the manner provided for persons in uniform. Origins. Historians point to surges in American patriotic oaths and pledges to the flag after the Civil War, when tensions surrounding political loyalties persisted, and in the 1880s, as rates of immigration increased dramatically. Well, I guess it's not a new problem, right? This immigration problem that you all have since the 1880s. Balch Pledge. An early pledge was created in 1887 by Captain George T. Balch, a veteran of the Civil War who later became auditor of the New York Board of Education. Balch's pledge, which was recited contemporaneously with Bellamy until the 1923 National Flag Conference, read, "We give our heads and hearts to God and our country, one language, one flag." Balch was a proponent of teaching children, especially those of immigrants, loyalty to the United States, even going so far as to write a book on the subject and work with both the government and private organizations to distribute flags to every classroom and school. Balch's pledge, which predates Francis Bellamy's by 5 years, and was embraced by many schools by the Daughters of the American Revolution until the 1910s, and the Grand Army of the Republic until the 1923 National Flag Conference, is often overlooked when discussing the history of this pledge. Bellamy Pledge. Are you bored? I'm quite interested.
No, go ahead. Keep going.
The Bellamy Pledge that later evolved into the form used today was composed in August 1892 by Francis Bellamy, born 1855, died 1931, for the popular children's magazine The Youth's Companion. Francis Bellamy, who was a Baptist minister, a Christian socialist, and the cousin of Edward Bellamy, 1850 to 1898, described the text of Balch's pledge as too juvenile and lacking in dignity. The Bellamy Pledge of Allegiance was first published in September 8, 1892 issue of the Youth's Companion as part of the National Public School celebration of Columbus Day, a celebration of the 1400th anniversary of Christopher Columbus's arrival in the Americas. The event was conceived and promoted by James B. Upham, a marketer for the magazine, as a campaign to instill the idea of American nationalism in students and to encourage children to raise flags above their schools. According to author Margaret S. Miller, this campaign was in line both with Upham's patriotic vision as well as with his commercial interest. According to Miller, Upham would often say to his wife, "Mary, if I can instill into the minds of our American youth a love for their country and the principles on which it was founded, and create in them an ambition to carry on with the ideals which the early founders wrote into the Constitution, I shall not have lived in vain." In 1957, Kenneth Keating instigated a report by Congress's Legislative Research Service that it was Francis Bellamy, not James B. Upham, who wrote the September 8, 1982 article. Keating represented New York's 38th congressional district, which included Bellamy's birthplace, Mount Morris. Bellamy's original pledge. I pledge allegiance to my flag and the republic for which it stands, one nation indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. The pledge was supposed to be quick and to the point. Bellamy designed it to be recited in 15 seconds. As a socialist, he had initially also considered using the word equality and fraternity, but decided against it. Oh, so socialism is also equated with the three demands of the French revolutionaries, which is liberty, equality, and fraternity. To continue, Francis Bellamy and Upham had lined up the National Education Association to support the Youth's Companion as a sponsor of the Columbus Day observance and the use in that observance of the American flag. By June 29, 1892, Bellamy and Upham had arranged for Congress and President Benjamin Harrison to announce a proclamation making the public school flag ceremony the center of the Columbus Day celebrations. This arrangement was formalized when Harrison issued Presidential Proclamation 335. Subsequently, the pledge was first used in public schools on October 12, 1892, during Columbus Day observances organized to coincide with the opening of the World's Columbian Exposition, Illinois. Francis Bellamy's account, in his recollection of the pledge, Francis Bellamy said, "At the beginning of the 90s, patriotism and national feeling was at a low ebb. The patriotic ardor of the Civil War was an old story. The time was ripe for a reawakening of simple Americanism, and the leaders in the new movement rightly felt that patriotic education should begin in the public schools. James Upham felt that a flag should be on every schoolhouse, so his publication fostered a plan of selling flags to schools through the children themselves at cost, which was so successful that 25,000 schools acquired flags in the first year, 1892 to 93. As the World's Columbian Exposition was set to celebrate the 400th anniversary of the arrival of Christopher Columbus in the Americas, Upham sought to link the publication flag drive to the event so that every school in the land would have a flag raising under the most impressive conditions. Bellamy was placed in charge of this cooperation and was soon lobbying not only the superintendents of education in all the states, but also worked with governors, congressmen, and even the President of the United States. The publication efforts paid off when Benjamin Harrison declared Wednesday, October 12, 1892, to be Columbus Day, for which the Youth's Companion made an official program for universal use in all the schools. Bellamy recalled that the event had to be more than a list of exercises. The ritual must be prepared with simplicity and dignity. So I guess to make it really, really scary, the rabbis would have to make some kind of pledge of allegiance to the no-hide laws, and then everybody will get really excited and angry and scared. To continue, Edna Dean Proctor wrote an ode for the event. There was also an oration suitable for declamation. Bellamy held that, of course, the nub of the program was to be the raising of the flag with a salute to the flag by the pupils in unison. He found there was not a satisfactory enough form for the salute. The Bouch salute, which ran, "I give my heart and my hand to my country, one language, one flag," seemed to him too juvenile and lacking in dignity. After working on the idea with Upham, Bellamy concluded, "It was my thought that a vow of loyalty or allegiance to the flag should be the dominant idea. I especially stress the word allegiance. Beginning with the new word allegiance, I first decided that pledge was a better school word than vow or swear, and that the first person singular should be used, and that my flag was preferable to the." Bellamy considered the words country, nation, or republic, choosing the last as it distinguished the form of government chosen by the founding fathers and established by the Revolution. The true reason for allegiance to the flag is the republic for which it stands. Bellamy then reflected on the sayings of Revolutionary and Civil War figures and concluded all that pictured struggle reduced itself to three words: one nation, indivisible. Bellamy considered the slogan of the French Revolution, libertaire, égalitaire, fraternité, but which is obviously liberty, equality, fraternity, but held that fraternity was too remote of realization and in view of the Civil War, and that equality was a dubious word, concluding liberty and justice were surely basic, were undebatable, and were all that any and were all that any one nation could handle if they were exercised for all. They involved the spirit of equality and its fraternity. After being reviewed by Upham and other members of the Youth's Companion, the pledge was approved and put in the official Columbus Day program. Bellamy noted that in later years the words "to my flag" were changed to the flag of the United States of America because of the large number of foreign children in the schools. Bellamy disliked the change as it did injure the rhythmic balance of the original composition. That's very interesting. I hope you're not. I hope people aren't getting bored. I'm fascinated by the subject. Contested authorship of the pledge. An alternative theory is that the pledge was submitted to an 1890 patriotic competition in the Youth's Companion by a 13-year-old Kansas schoolboy coincidentally named Frank E. Bellamy. A May 1892 newspaper from Hays, Kansas, reported on an April 30 school flag raising that was accompanied by an almost identical pledge. The ceremony could have taken place months before Francis supposedly created the pledge during August of that same year, according to his own testimony. The discovery was made by the noted amateur lexicographer Barry Popick, who collaborated with Fred Shapiro, an associate library director of the Yale School of Law. Shapiro previously attributed the pledge to Francis Bellamy in the Yale Book of Quotations, which he edits, but now regards Popick's discovery as favoring Frank E. Bellamy rather than Francis Bellamy as the originator, and intends to update future versions of the book to reflect this. Changes. In 1906, the Daughters of the American Revolution's magazine, The American Monthly, used the following wording of the Pledge of Allegiance based on Boucher's pledge. I pledge allegiance to my flag and the republic for which it stands. I pledge my head and my heart to God and my country, one language, and one flag. In subsequent publications of the Daughters of the American Revolution, such as in 1915's Proceedings of the 24th Continental Congress of the Daughters of the American Revolution and 1916's Annual National Report, the previous pledge adjusted to read, I pledge my head, my hand, my heart, listed as official in 1906, is now categorized as Old Pledge, with Bellamy's version under the heading New Pledge. The old pledge was still taken in other organizations until the National Flag Conference established uniform flag procedures in 1923. In 1923, the National Flag Conference called for the words "my flag" to be changed to "the flag of the United States" so that foreign-born people would not confuse loyalties between their birth countries and the US. The words "of America" were added a year later. Congress officially recognized the pledge for the first time in the following form on June 22, 1942. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Edition of Under God. That's the most important bit. Lewis Albert Bowman, an attorney from Illinois, was the first to suggest the addition of "under God" to the pledge. The National Society of the Daughters of the American Revolution gave him an award of merit as the originator of this idea. He spent his adult life in the Chicago area and was chaplain of the Illinois Society of the Sons of the American Revolution. At a meeting on February 12, 1948, he led the society in reciting the pledge with the two words "under God" added. He said that the words came from Lincoln's Gettysburg Address. Although not all manuscript versions of the Gettysburg Address contain the words "under God," all the reported transcripts of the speech as delivered do, as perhaps Lincoln may have deviated from his prepared text and inserted the phrase when he said that the nation shall, under God, have a new birth of freedom. Bowman repeated his revised version of the pledge at other meetings. During the Cold War era, many Americans wanted to distinguish the United States from the state atheism promoted by communist countries, a view that led to the support for the words "under God" to be added to the Pledge of Allegiance. In 1951, the Knights of Columbus, the world's largest Catholic fraternal service organization, also began including the words "under God" in the Pledge of Allegiance. In New York City, on April 30, 1951, the Board of Directors of the Knights of Columbus adopted a resolution to amend the text of their Pledge of Allegiance at the opening of each of the meetings of the 804th degree assemblies of the Knights of Columbus by addition of the words "under God" after the words "one nation." Over the next 2 years, the idea spread throughout the Knights of Columbus organizations nationwide. On August 21, 1952, the Supreme Council of the Knights of Columbus at its annual meeting adopted a resolution urging that the change be made universal, and copies of this resolution were sent to the President, the Vice President as presiding officer of the Senate, and the Speaker of the House of Representatives. The National Fraternal Congress meeting in Boston on September 24, 1952, adopted a similar resolution upon the recommendation of its President Supreme Knight Luke E. Hart. Several state fraternal congresses acted likewise almost immediately thereafter. This campaign led to several official attempts to prompt Congress to adopt the Knights of Columbus policy for the entire nation. These attempts were eventually a success. Okay, I'll just finish this. I mean, there's going to be salute and music, and maybe I'll read controversy. Okay, let me just finish this heading. I hope it's not too boring for people. Now I have to find my place. Okay. At the suggestion of a correspondent representative, Louis C. Rabo, Democrat from Michigan. Oh, sorry. Vincent, you dropped out. I'm sorry, I didn't notice. I was just still reading. I hope it's okay for me to keep reading. Or do you want to say something now, Vincent?
No, I've been listening to what you've been reading. It's been interesting.
Shall I continue?
That last, you were just going to read one last bit, right?
Let me see how many paragraphs I have to read until the end of this heading. Because it's actually to the point of under God, right? So it's a bit long, but there's 3 or 4 more paragraphs.
It's okay. Why don't you read that? Do you mind if I'm back in about 10 minutes?
Sure. I mean, yeah, I'll carry on reading.
Okay, read for a little bit and I'll be back.
Alrighty.
Bye.
I don't know why.
We have our
I can hear you, Vincent. Let me find my place. I keep losing it. Okay. At the suggestion, before 1954, no endeavor to get the pledge officially amended had succeeded. The final successful push came from George McPherson Doherty. Some American presidents honored Lincoln's birthday by attending services at the church Lincoln attended.
What's wrong with saying?
I think I have to mute Vincent.
What's wrong with that?
Hello, Pick and Choose. I see you. Yes, the no-height laws are important, really, because I use them. But Vincent doesn't like them, but that's okay. We can still talk about it. Okay, some American presidents honored Lincoln's birthday by attending services at the church Lincoln attended, New York Avenue Presbyterian Church, by sitting on Lincoln's pew on Sunday nearest February 12. On February 7, 1954, with President Dwight D. Eisenhower sitting in Lincoln's pew, Doherty, the church's pastor, delivered a sermon based on the Gettysburg Address entitled The New Birth of Freedom. He argued that the nations might lay not in arms, but rather in its spirit and higher purpose. He noted that the pledge's sentiments could be those of any nation. There was something missing in the pledge, and that which was missing was a characteristic and definitive factor in the American way of life. He cited Lincoln's words, "under God," as defining words that set the U.S. apart from other nations. Well, there you go. It can't, it's important to Americans. President Eisenhower had been baptized a Presbyterian very recently, just a year before. He responded enthusiastically to Doherty in a conversation following the service. Eisenhower acted on his suggestion that the next day, on February 8, 1954, Republican Charles Oatman from Michigan introduced a bill to that effect. Congress passed the necessary legislation, and Eisenhower signed the bill into law on Flag Day, June 14, 1954. Eisenhower said, "From this day forward, the millions of our school children will daily proclaim in every city and town, every village and rural house, the dedication of our nation and our people to the Almighty. In this way, we are reaffirming the transcendence of religious faith in America's heritage and future. In this way, we shall constantly strengthen those spiritual weapons which will forever be our country's most powerful resource in peace or in war." Very true. Let me just... So he's saying the dedication of our nation and our people to the Almighty is reaffirming the transcendence of religious faith in America's heritage and future. And in this way, we shall constantly strengthen those spiritual weapons which forever will be our country's most powerful resource in peace or in war. There you go. America is one nation under God with all its powerful spiritual weapons and resources, because Americans need to reaffirm the transcendence of religious faith in America's heritage and future. And this means agreeing to live under sharia. The phrase "under God" was incorporated into the Pledge of Allegiance on June 14, 1954 by a joint resolution of Congress amending 4 of the Flag Code enacted in 1942. On October 6, 1954, the National Executive Committee of the American Legion adopted a resolution first approved by the Illinois American Legion Convention in August 1954, which formally recognized the Knights of Columbus for having initiated and brought forward the amendment to the Pledge of Allegiance. So this is the Catholic contribution to America, because, of course, the Knights of Columbus is a Catholic fraternal service organization. It is formed in America, right? It's an American thing, isn't it? American Catholic thing. Because I remember E. Michael Jones talking about it. Yeah, it goes on about immigrant. The organization was founded in March 29, 1882 as a mutual benefit society for working class and immigrant Catholics in the United States. In addition to providing an insurance system for its members, it has grown to support refugee relief, Catholic education, blah, blah, blah. Okay, so now it's a left-wing thing, but it used to be a friendly society for poor Catholics and immigrants that I guess the WASPs were mean to. Do you want to read about the salute? Oh. Yes, we do want to read about the salute because the Nazi salute is mentioned. Hey. Salute. Swearing of the pledge is accompanied by a salute. An early version of the salute, adopted in 1887, accompanied by the Balch Pledge and was known as the Balch Salute. The salute instructed students to stand with their right hand outstretched towards a flag, the fingers of which were then brought to the forehead, followed by being placed flat over the heart and finally falling to the side. Let me just practice it. Hand on the flag. The fingers are then brought to the forehead. So, the salute, followed by being placed over flat over the heart, and then okay. In 1892, Francis Bellamy created that was known as a Bellamy salute to accompany his own version of the Pledge of Allegiance. It started with a hand outstretched towards the flag, palm down, and ended with a palm up. Many decades later, during World War II, controversy arose because of the similarity between the Bellamy salute and the Nazi salute, which was adopted in Germany in the 1930s. Although, unlike the Bellamy salute, this one did not end with the palm up. As a result, the US Congress stipulated that the hand over the heart gesture would instead be rendered by civilians during the Pledge of Allegiance and the national anthem, thereby replacing the Bellamy salute. Removal of the Bellamy salute occurred in December 22, 1942, when Congress amended the flag code language first passed into law on June 22, 1942. Attached to bills passed in Congress 2008 and then in 2009, Section 30 B 1 of Title 36 United States Code, language is included which authorize all active duty military personnel and all veterans in civilian clothes to render a proper hand salute during the raising and lowering of the flag when the colors are presented and during the national anthem. Sarah Churchwell has argued that the term salute, as it relates to the Bellamy and Balch salutes, historically referred to the words of the pledges themselves, not a physical gesture. Music. A musical setting for the Pledge of Allegiance to the flag was created by Irving Caesar at the suggestion of Congressman Louis C. Rabot, whose House Resolution 243 to add the phrase "under God" was signed into law on Flag Day, June 14, 1954. The composer Irving Caesar wrote and published over 700 songs in his lifetime dedicated to social issues. He donated all rights of the musical setting to the US government so that anyone can perform the piece without owing royalties. It was sung for the first time on the floor of the House of Representatives on Flag Day, June 14, 1955, by the official Air Force choral group, the Singing Sergeants. A July 29, 1955 House and Senate resolution authorized the U.S. government printing office to print and distribute the song sheet together with a history of the pledge. Other musical versions of the pledge have since been copyrighted, including by Beck, 2003. Okay, I'm not going to read all those names. Controversy. In 1940, the Supreme Court in Minersville. Thank you for coming. Jay, hello. I'm still going to get to the end of this reading because I think it's quite interesting. So, Jay, you can join me if you want. Controversy. In 1914, the Supreme Court in Minersville School District in Gobitis ruled that students in public schools, including the respondents in that case, Jehovah's Witnesses, who consider the flag salute to be idolatry, could be compelled to swear the pledge. In 1943, in West Virginia State Board of Education versus Barnett, the Supreme Court reversed its decision Justice Robert H. Jackson, writing for the 6-3 majority, went beyond simply ruling in the precise matter presented by the case to say that public school students are not required to say the pledge on narrow grounds, and asserted that such ideological dogmata are antithetical to the principles of the country, concluding with, if there is any fixed star in our constitutional consolation, it is that no official, high or petty, can prescribe what shall be orthodox in politics, nationalism, religion, or other matters of opinion, or force citizens to confess by word or act their faith therein. If there are any circumstances which permit an exception, they do not now occur to us. In 2004, the 11th Circuit Court of Appeal held that students are also not required to stand for the pledge. Requiring or promoting of the pledge on the start of the government has continued to draw criticism and legal challenges on several grounds. One objection is that a constitutional republic built on freedom of dissent should not require citizens to pledge allegiance to it, and that the First Amendment to the United States Constitution protects a right to refrain from speaking or standing, which itself is also a form of speech in the context of the ritual of pledging allegiance. Another objection is that the people who are most likely to recite the pledge every day, small children in schools, cannot really give their consent or even completely understand the pledge they are making. Another criticism is a belief that the government requiring or promoting the phrase "under God" violates protections against the establishment of religion guaranteed in the Establishment Clause of the First Amendment. In 2004, linguist Jeffrey Nunberg said the original supporters of the edition thought they were simply quoting Lincoln's Gettysburg Address. But to Lincoln and his contemporaries, "under God" meant God willing, so that they would have found its use in the Pledge of Allegiance grammatically incorrect and semantically odd. In popular culture, the pledge has been mocked or altered by several movies and television series, including but not limited to The Simpsons' inscription above the Springfield County Courthouse's door of liberty and justice for most, first appearing in the 12th episode of the first season in 1990. Legal challenges. And then that will be the last. Heading. Have people gone? Are you on board? I will read till the end because I'm interested in legal challenges. Prominent legal challenges were brought in the 1930s and 1940s by Jehovah's Witnesses. Are you listening? Are you listening, Vincent? A denomination whose beliefs preclude swearing loyalty to any power other than God, and who objected to policies in public schools requiring students to swear an oath to the flag. They said requiring the pledge violated the freedom of religion guaranteed by the free exercise clause of the First Amendment. The first case was in 1935 when two children, Lillian and William Gobaitis, ages 10 and 12, were expelled from the Minersville, Pennsylvania public schools that year for failing to salute the flag and recite the Pledge of Allegiance. The issue was finally settled in favor of the witnesses by the 1943 Supreme Court ruling, West Virginia State Board Education and Barnett. In a 2002 case brought by atheist Michael Newdow, whose daughter was being taught the pledge in school in a Ninth Circuit Court of Appeals, ruled the phrase "under God" an unconstitutional endorsement of monotheism when the pledge was promoted in public school. In 2004, the Supreme Court heard Elk Grove United School District versus Newdow, an appeal of the ruling, and rejected Newdow's claim on the grounds that he was not the custodial parent and therefore lacked standing, thus avoiding ruling on the merits of whether the phrase was constitutional in a school-sponsored recitation. On January 3, 2005, a new suit was filed by the U.S. District Court for the Eastern District of California on behalf of three unnamed families. On September 14, 2005, District Judge Lawrence Carlton ruled in their favor, citing the precedent of the 2002 ruling of the Ninth Circuit Court of Appeals. Judge Carlton issued an order stating that upon the proper motion, he would enjoin the school district defendants from continuing their practices of leading children in pledging allegiance to one nation under God. In 2006, all this century, right? In 2006, in the Florida case, Frazier and Alexander, a federal district court in Florida ruled that 1943 state law requiring students to stand and recite the Pledge of Allegiance violates the First and 14th Amendments of the U.S. Constitution. As a result of that decision, a Florida school district was ordered to pay $32,500 to a student who chose not to say the pledge and was ridiculed and called unpatriotic by a teacher. In 2009, a Montgomery County, Maryland teacher berated and had school police remove a 13-year-old girl who refused to say the Pledge of Allegiance in the classroom. The student's mother, asserted by the American Civil Liberties Union of Maryland, sought an apology from the teacher. A state law in the school student handbook both prohibited students from being forced to recite the pledge, and a spokesman for the school said the teacher would have to do so. On March 11, 2010, the Ninth Circuit Court of Appeals upheld the words under God in the Pledge of Allegiance in the case of Newdow versus Rio Linda Union School District. In a 2-1 decision, the appellate court ruled that the words were of a ceremonial and patriotic nature and did not constitute an establishment of religion. Dear, oh dear. Judge Stephen Reinhardt dissented, writing that the state-directed, teacher-led daily recitation in public schools of the amended under God version of the Pledge of Allegiance violates the Establishment Clause of the Constitution. This is really very interesting indeed. On November 12, 2010, in a unanimous decision, the United States Court of Appeals for the First Circuit in Boston affirmed a ruling by a New Hampshire lower federal court, which found that the pledge's reference to God does not violate non-pledging students' rights if student participation in the pledge is voluntary. A United States Supreme Court appeal of this decision was denied on June 13, 2011. In September 2013, a case was brought before the Massachusetts Supreme Judicial Court arguing that the pledge violates the Equal Rights Amendment of the Constitution of Massachusetts. In May 2014, Massachusetts' highest court ruled that the pledge does not discriminate against atheists, saying that the words under God represent a patriotic, not religious exercise. It's all so 50-50, isn't it? In February 2015, New Jersey Superior Court Judge David F. Bowman dismissed a lawsuit ruling that the Pledge of Allegiance does not violate the rights of those who don't believe in God and does not have to be removed from the patriotic message. The case against Matawan Aberdeen Regional School District had been brought by a student of the district and the American Humanist Association that argued that the phrase under God in the pledge created a climate of discrimination because it promoted religion, making non-believers second-class citizens. In a 21-page decision, Bowman wrote, under the association members' reasoning, the very constitution under which the members seek redress for perceived atheistic marginalization could itself be deemed unconstitutional, an absurd proposition which association members do not and cannot advance here. Bowman said the student could skip the pledge, but upheld a New Jersey law that says pupils must recite the pledge unless they have conscientious scruples that do not allow it. He noted, as a matter of historical tradition, the words under God can no more be expunged from the national consciousness than the words, "In God we trust," from every coin in the land, than the words, "So help me God," from every presidential oath since 1789, or than the prayer that has opened every congressional session of legislative business in 1787. The end. Well, I thought that was interesting, even though I guess most people have gone, including Vincent, and I'm not going to be monologuing anymore, having read so much from such a long Wikipedia entry. But thank you all for coming. There is still one person looking, two viewers. So thank you for coming and taking an interest in the Pledge of Allegiance for America that requires Americans to pledge their allegiance to one nation under God. Which I think would help the promotion of secular Quranism. Oh, Vincent's back.
Hello?
Hello.
What were you just saying about secular Quranism?
Well, I was wondering aloud whether the current situation with regard to the Pledge of Allegiance is helpful to secular Quranism, the promotion of it. Were you listening to me reading the rest of the entry?
No, I was not. I had to go do some things. But how was it?
Well, I recommend that you read it because, I mean, it's clearly linked to you going on about the no-hide laws and whether the no-hide laws is actually a religion. I guess the rabbis would say no, wouldn't they?
Well, I don't know. It's some say yes, some say no, maybe so, maybe yes, maybe no. So that makes it even more dangerous, right? Because now it's like you can't maybe pin it down as a religion, because if you read, like, let's say there are, okay, is it a religion? Okay, so in its bare, do not worship idols. Does that say you have to worship God Hashem? Does that say that you must believe in God Hashem? Does that say you must espouse a one true God, or does it just say you can't be a polytheist?
Well, I would say that the no-hide laws will never be enforced because of all the the theological difficulties of well, I mean, the rabbis won't say that this is what we mean. You'll all have to be executed, you idolaters and blasphemers, because
they don't have to say that right now. They have.
I know, but we're talking about it in theory. Okay, so let's say
but the reality is nothing like that. It's more likely to happen in reality, because the reality is nothing like, we're going to decapitate all you idol worshippers. No, it's going to be more like shituf, and Christianity is okay for Christians, and it's for non-Jews.
Yeah, I'm saying that's a problem with them talking out of both sides of their mouths, but because that's because they're scared of Christians, right? But I'm just saying, what their scripture actually says, and they can't deny that it's one of the 36 capital offenses. Idolatry and blasphemy is one of them. So we can deduce.
They have a smarter way of implementing their system than just coming out guns blazing. That's not the way they're going to do it.
No, I'm not talking about their strategy or anything. I'm just talking
but you're talking about the feasibility of this ever happening, and then you're framing it as it has to happen in this way that's so catastrophic that nobody would want it.
Well, you're saying you object to it because eventually you're going to be beheaded, right? I mean, that's
not right away. Not like right away.
Okay, we're not talking about today or tomorrow. We're just talking about it in theory, okay?
Okay, yes. In theory, yes, I would be, yes.
Because I mean, otherwise, why would we be, talking endlessly
Yeah.
about it? You could
Well,
because you.
also, there's other things besides getting beheaded that are bad about it. You don't want these negative principles being, encoded into daily government proclamations. So that's also another thing. You don't want the culture to take over either. So you don't want the law or the culture or anything like that. And if I were a Christian, I would be very concerned about culturally eroding and people just converting over and leaving Christianity for it.
Okay, so to protect yourself from the no-hide laws, you have to use secular Quranism, which supports the First Amendment, but you refuse because you
No,
want to.
because I say I'm going to give no. Oh no, I've already said that I prefer a a Amero Israel India Christian Judeo Hindu Noahide alliance, and I for right now, it's Islamic National Socialism versus Judeo Hindu Christianity and capitalism. And
Oh, it's a bit of a mouthful, isn't it?
well, but still, it's I have to. What I'm trying, the point that I'm trying to get
You're
to
on the
is that
side of the
no,
idolaters.
no,
You're
no.
on the side of the idolaters.
No, I'm on the side of the Jews and the Hindus and the Christians, and
You're on the side of the
I would
idolaters.
rather deal with Noahide law than deal with Islam and either Islam's alliance with the left or the right. So it's either Islamic right, Islamic left, or it's the Jews, Hindus, and America. So I choose the Jews, Hindus, and America. I know that's the Noahide route. I know what they want, but I'm less scared of them than I am of Islam combined with some form of socialism.
Why are you more scared of Islam than the no-hide laws?
Because the rabbis are not, okay, like you could find lots of Muslim streamers that very openly, spew lots of toxic hatred for either homosexuals, atheists, blasphemers, women, pagans, anyone that, that they're very aggressive and they're aligned with very negative, aggressive people in the right wing making these statements. Rabbis, I mean, look how pleasant they are about their anti-homosexuality and their march against feminism. It's not so like scary and brutish and like I feel like they're going to like lock me up in a concentration camp or something like that. You can tell that their agenda is a lot slower and softer. In a million ways, their agenda is a lot slower and softer. A million ways. If they're opening up to Hindus, they're not going to be executing me anytime soon. What? Tell me one rabbi that speaks about homosexuals the way Myron Gaines speaks about them.
I don't know
Who?
what Myron Gaines says about
Well,
homosexuals.
he doesn't. He's very nasty about them and stuff like that. Like I've never met an Orthodox rabbi that speaks about homosexuals the way any of these Muslim podcasters do. I mean, not they're they remind me, at least more likely. Sometimes they get nasty, but they remind me a lot of Jehovah's Witnesses who are very anti-homosexual but aren't nasty about it. They're just very factual, matter of fact, and cold and blunt about it, and don't go on about it, all day and all night and making graphic, disgusting comments every 5 seconds. That's not what they do with their lives. You know what I mean? Whereas I think the rabbis, they focus. Of course, okay, the rabbis are, okay, what's probably more likely to happen? Something like the rabbis start working with Arthur Goldberg so that, he can open up his conversion centers again and stuff like that. Like, things like that they're going to do. They're not going to, there's not some scary, aggressive, young Orthodox Jew leading these hordes of hateful young men screaming about women, gays, this race, that race, these people, those people, ready for blood. The Orthodox
Because
Jew.
you're too powerful, and if you want to keep all your rights, then they'll of course they're going to hate you more. So I mean, what I advise is you just quietly get out of the way and go into your corners rather than lord it over everyone else. And
I'm
maybe
sorry, I'm not lording. I've never lorded anything over anyone. So I've never lorded anything over anyone.
Well, you
And
presume to breed heterosexuals. I mean,
okay,
that's not lording it over
what? I
heterosexuals.
presume what?
You, you're saying you have ways of making heterosexual people breed. You are going to
No, no,
um,
I not forcibly. So
make women
you
extinct and make things
okay? Okay,
cause
that's gone.
heterosexual
That's gone.
men.
Okay. Wait, all this is we've already gone. You're bringing up things that I'm no longer involved in, and we've already had the discussion. I'm no longer involved in it, so it's not really fair to like bring up things we've already said. I no longer represent. So I no longer represent those things. But the point is that no, you're asking me to make a decision. Who's okay? It. Okay, like I don't know. The Jewish touch is a lot. The Jewish Hindu touch to world control is a lot softer than Islamic right wing socialism. Okay, like or whatever it's going to be. That alliance, it's a softer touch, and I think it would keep the economy running better. I think it would be better for. I think it would be better like for actually the physical upkeep of the world. And I think it would keep a little bit more of the status quo rights for everybody, a little bit of kind of like an extension of America to the globe a little bit more, even more so than now if Israel, America, and India unite. And it looks like Japan might. I think Japan should unite with India, Israel, and America, and then they have hopefully they have those Muslim, cities, those Muslim countries in the Middle East that are working with them. Everyone says that we own Saudi Arabia. I don't know if that's really true. I don't know. Could be true.
Well, I mean, things are changing very quickly, right? And because
Yeah.
because of the US-Iran war, I think Muslims might kind of be become quite popular.
Well, let's see if it's going. I don't know. There's a lot of opposition to it, and we have to see. You know what I mean? I'm not even, I think there's other people that don't necessarily like Judaism, Hinduism, or even Christianity, but see that it's a better alternative. It's better than the alternative, which would be Islam mixed with some kind of, some
Well,
kind
I mean,
of,
do you even talk to people who, don't agree with you want the status quo, right? You just want American economic and military supremacy. But, because of all the way things are happening, it suggests that, the situation is fluid.
Okay, yes. Well, I'm trying to repair America's damage by aligning it with India and Israel and hopefully Japan and South Korea and,
You're
those
just
countries.
talking about America's vassal states.
Okay, well, let's make sure that we use them to their best ability. I don't think India has been put to its best, test of what it can offer America and the world. I don't think Japan has been put to the test to see what it can most offer America and the world, or South Korea. I don't think, I don't think that, I think there's a lot more wealth and nation building for America to do globally if it's going to protect itself. And yes, I see that my protection lies with the continuance of some semblance of the American empire.
Oh, you can still have your empire. What I'm proposing is just imperial reform.
No, we don't. No. I don't want to go messing with. I don't know if getting you just expect everyone to just believe we can like phase out usury and that we're going to
Yes.
not. Yeah, but
Why
we
not?
could easily starve to death. No one's ever done this on a global scale like this. It's never
No,
been done. It's never been done. We could starve to death.
well, lots
Like,
of things haven't been done. Uh,
okay, well, it's just a very,
it means you can default on your debts. What's wrong with that? I think that'll be
okay,
very
well,
popular for people
that would
who
have a lot of
want lower house
economic,
prices.
that would have a lot of economic repercussions down the line. If I default on my debts, other people can't pay their debts, and then nobody can get their debts. And, it's, a lot of people would lose a lot of investment would go down the drain. A lot of things would happen if that happened. But no, I want to be able to live as a free, ideologically or theistically ambiguous, agnostic, gay man. I just like America.
On the secular Quran.
No, I don't. I don't get my life right now where I'm married to my husband and everyone knows that he's my husband. No, I don't get that. I don't get my life.
You can call him your domestic partner.
No, well, I don't get my life, and that's not how I want to live my life.
What is your life that you think will be kind of? It's just status, isn't it? I mean, nothing.
Okay, well, I like to be able to say he's, and I like that I was able to marry him and give him benefits and be under his benefits and taxes and all the other kind of stuff. I liked that, and I liked lots of things. And I liked having an open wedding. I wouldn't be able to have a gay wedding under secular Quran unless I hid it somewhere and didn't let anyone know it was happening. I only passed out.
A housewarming party.
Yeah, whatever. Yeah, exactly. I'm just no. Come on, I'm not living my life like this. I can't post online. Me and my husband got married and kissed in a ceremony.
Well, why do you need to? It's not like you're having children.
No, because he's the love of my life, and I just want people are
like. You love him all you like, but
people are allowed to discuss. Okay, well, nobody stopped heterosexuals. So there's heterosexuals.
Not that you're not prepared to do. Then they deserve, the right kind of encouragement.
Okay, so what does? They're allowed to do whatever they want just because I kiss my husband in a public photo. Right? Just because I post my photo on Facebook, I'm not stopping anyone from raising their children. I'm not stopping anyone from raising their children by posting my marriage photo book on Facebook.
You're just making it hard for people who actually want to marry to marry, right? It's like
no, I'm not making it hard. I'm not making it hard. I'm not making it. If you want to get married, go get married. I'm not stopping you. Go get married.
Yeah, but if you make it respectable to be married and gay, then you're kind of saying, oh, this is acceptable, and the government supports it.
Yeah, so they should. I'm not. Yeah, well, I'm not opposed to that.
Why should they? Well,
they should start. Well, okay. This will all change. Once we start reproducing. Once we start reproducing. I agree with you. Look, if homosexuals do not link up with straight women and form families, stable families, and reproduce, then horrible things are going to happen to homosexuals.
Really? How?
If they're why would okay, I'm just saying if they don't. Maybe you're right, maybe they won't, Claire. If they don't, then your whole totalitarian, horrible world that you want for homosexuals is going to happen to them. That's a horrible, sad truth, and I spent a lot of time not behaving or thinking like most homosexuals. And I spent a lot of time spreading that idea to other homosexuals. Whether it'll link on or not, I'm not sure. But if it doesn't, then you win. Then all the horrible things,
what's so horrible about the government supporting married parents?
I don't want to talk about that. The point is that homosexuals are going to be in a world that they do not enjoy in any sense, shape, or form. So if you do not listen to the advice that I give, which is that there must be some form of reproduction involved in the community and actually at a high level, organizing that is a different topic for discussion. If it doesn't happen, then I can't help. You can't help, nothing you can do. So either start reproducing, how is a different issue which we can discuss, but if you do not do it, even on your own, in any way, shape, or form, then you're fucked. And something more like sharia or something, some anti-homosexual, either legal system or belief system or cultural influence will take over. And that's about it. That's my drive home message. You have to reproduce.
Yeah, and that's why you need to support the people who are
No,
prepared to do it.
if
And you
I'm just
refuse to
saying
do it.
it'll change. No, it'll change if I can get them to change, then I've done my work on this earth. If I can get homosexuals, to change, this is like I take a lot from
I'm not interested in
Rabbi Harry
whatever.
Watton. I took a lot from Rabbi Harry Watton. He said, if you want to win, you have to adopt the other side's strategies. You have to. You have to look at them and say, they have something I do not have. They're doing something I'm not doing. And any homosexual can pick up Rabbi Harry Watton's book, A Program for Jews, and read it. And, it's something that, okay, heterosexuals are doing something we're not doing. They have all the power. They have, they have all of this, but there's a reason why. It's not happening for no reason. It's not, they're not in power for no reason. You're not at the bottom of the totem pole for no reason. There's a lot of, moving parts going on. And, Rabbi Harry Watton didn't say the enemies of Judaism can't change. He just said, if you don't change, you'll lose. And with the Nazis, he was right. You don't change, you lose. So my message, as what I hope would be a gay messiah to the gay people, is you have to change. You cannot do it the way you've been doing it for the past, since the beginning of time. You need to take on a new person. This is a new, you have to become a neo person. You need to revolutionize what it is to be a human being in order to overcome this. If you do not do that, if you do not revolutionize and become greater, then you're in trouble. And that greater comes from synergy. That synergy comes from adopting the other side. What do heterosexuals have? Well, they have reproduction. So if you would have to compete. That's the only, you would have to compete, and you would have to do it more and better. And if you don't, then then I can't help them anymore. Then somebody else try. But that's my message. And I'm staying on point with that.
Anything else?
No.
Okay.
He asked if I'm going forward with the idea of baby farms. Yeah, but not you're making it seem like we're just gonna randomly impregnate stolen women and tear the babies away. And no, this is more like a family. Oh, okay, my avatar here is not the same as the one on Twitter. I changed it, but this is more like polygamous household rearing, something sister wives or something like that going on, not, sterile, scary. Nobody would want to be born there. Nobody would want to stay there. Nobody would even want to do that. People think that if you design this scary, evil factory, that people would just, oh yes, I want to go live here and have my children here. Nobody would do that. You have to make it nice. I would have to make it nice. If I want people to enter into my baby farm, it needs to be real nice. It needs to be mint. Okay, it's a unique idea. It's things that people haven't thought about before, and they need to be enticed in. I can't be scaring people and unveiling this dystopian vision, which sometimes in the past I have unveiled dystopian visions, which, I'm allowed to make mistakes. I mean, yeah, okay, I made a mistake, but at least I correct them. I don't mind correcting my mistakes and seeing that I was wrong on something, and evolving over time doesn't hurt me, because I do have just general core principles that don't change, which is just basically, with what do the Noahide laws teach you? The Noahide laws teach you that all you really need is a sense that if you commit certain crimes, you'll be punished. So either in this world or the next, though the next part is not necessarily a necessity for you to believe, but you're supposed to at least put your energy into building a court which means that if there is a court, which you helped build in some way, even if it was just through consensus, you've given this court the ability to stop you from committing certain crimes. So as long as you have that, I don't know why I brought this up, I kind of forgot. As long as you have that behind you, okay, like, you know, there's this set of these negative laws, these prohibitions of crimes. So, and then, but after that, you have a lot of creativity about what you can do. You know, you have a lot of creativity about what you can build. I kind of lost where I was going with this, and I forgot why I was saying this. As long as you have that. Oh, that's right, that I'm evolving. And people will be like, oh, you evolve, you change. You're not supposed to do that. That's bad. That means you don't have principles. That means you don't believe in anything. Well, no, all you really need is, okay, that's all you need. All you need is a set of prohibitions that are enforceable by a court on this earth, a human court that you can go to jail for. And as long as you have that, it's going to be okay. How many viewers do we have? Claire?
We have 4. No, it's 3.
Oh, we have 3 viewers. Yeah, as long as you have that, I don't see what's wrong with that. And that, you know, I don't know if we've talked about reformbeyondism.com on here yet. So everyone knows I support Beyondism, blah, 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 blah. But Beyondism isn't perfect. It has some, well, you know, it's, I told someone, I tried to tell people, I said, oh, Beyondism isn't perfect. And they're like, well, why is it imperfect? And they said, well, it encourages certain people to be forced sterilized. And they were like, oh, why does that make it imperfect? So I reformed it to get rid of that forced sterilization. I didn't have to get rid of that many things. It wasn't that many egregious problems. I also made it way less elite and said it's not based on qualified elites and stuff. I hate that kind of shit where like you have to take tests to get it qualified, or I don't know, to rule society you need to be very good at taking tests and be pedantic and things like that. I don't necessarily think that's true. But reformbeyondism.com is why did I get into this? Claire, why did I get into this?
I don't know. I was responding to a comment in the chat. Are you stoned?
Me?
Yes.
A little bit, yeah.
Well, that's why you start sentences and forget why you started them.
Yeah,
I'm
no.
not stoned, but I guess you will be saying that your idea is better.
Well, it's nicer. It's nicer, though. If you do believe in forced sterilizing people, then go ahead. And no, I mean, I don't agree with doing that, but you should. I'm just saying, take Beyondism just by itself, which you could just read at that reformbeyondism.com. You can just read the catechism and the chapter summaries, but and then you can just adapt it. So it's just, as for my ethical system, as for the rest of so I have the negatives, right? No murder, no stealing, no raping, no this, no that. There's, on that reformbeyondism.com, there's a whole list of negative prohibitions of things you can't do, no impersonation, no fraud, no this, no that, no that. So I'm covered with that. And I didn't really need a God to teach me any of these things. Secular governments are able to outlaw these kinds of things. And then with Beyondism, I have learning from other people and absorbing what works, right? So identifying groups like the Jews. Why are the Jews so powerful? Why do the Jews have so much control? Why are they so successful? Why?
And have you decided, do you know why Jews are so successful? Is it because of Judaism?
Well, okay. part of it is some ideas in Judaism. There's parts of Judaism. Well, Jews also get themselves in a lot of trouble and have a lot of problems. And even though, power is not everything, there's also peace of mind. And there's other things, to say besides wealth and power in this world. And it doesn't mean that everything that Jews do is right. Maybe they have some good ideas. And, the one thing that we can say is that in Orthodox Jewry, with their, their sexual practices, they procreate a lot, whereas people who do not take on their sexual practices do not procreate as much. So the point is, but can you override that? Now, so what do you learn from that? You learn that at least procreating is good, right? And you also learn that removing or restraining sex increases procreation, probably, especially when there's no birth control involved. If you do not allow, any other avenue for sexual intercourse than reproduction, which is good for your survival. So, but is there a way to look at that system and then just only take part of it, which is reproduction, but leave behind the sexual restraint part and just do the reproduction purposely, not by accident? Okay, so the natural way, or the way that the Orthodox community really wants you to do it, is that you do not engage in any other kind of sexual practices besides heterosexual practice between a husband and a wife. And so therefore lots of children are going to come forth, whether you plan for them or not, whether you're intentionally doing it or not. Just because an Orthodox couple goes to bed every night doesn't mean that they're necessarily looking for more children. It just happens. Whereas people who don't live that lifestyle actually would have to make the conscientious effort to have an increased birth rate, which I think is better. People actually wanting to have children and people actually doing it out of planned procedure, rather than, okay, well, I have no other option because I have the fear of God of me of doing it.
But they'll have fewer, as we already know.
Well, not right now. There's not a eugenic consciousness over the population. They're not reformed beyond this. They're not thinking about eugenic practices daily in their daily lives, because that religion has not yet taken set. The beyondist ideology has not yet reached any kind of large proportion like that. And the eugenicists that are around are not that clever right now. But if
right,
they were able,
so you're going to turn beyondism into a state religion, is it? Is that what you?
No, it doesn't.
Like to do ideally?
No, it doesn't need to be a state religion. No.
You did talk about beyondism in terms of a religion.
It is. It doesn't necessarily need to be a state religion. It could be a method of arranging a state. It can maybe inform how to arrange your state. But no, it's not like a state religion. It's more like a religion that influences states. Like, take our practices, like, here's our program, try to implement some of these things in your system, kind of thing.
Right. So earlier you mentioned forced sterilization. Were you saying you supported it, or
no? Cattell did, and I'm against it.
Right.
Cattell supported forced sterilization, and I'm against that.
Okay, I'm glad we cleared that up. But what we have already is has worked for centuries, and you're expecting people to try, or
Okay, but nobody's stopping them from doing it their way. There's just a couple of people that want to breathe a little bit differently than you, and you're freaking out. So what? Go do it your way. Nobody's stopping you. You act like I'm getting, coming out with knives and guns, stopping other people from having monogamous marriages.
Well, if you want to encourage,
well, they'll do it. Okay, well,
let's do it more quickly rather than,
No, well, there's other ways. Okay, well, you're trying to recreate humanity here. So if you're trying to recreate humanity, you don't want to do it the way that it's always been. You're not going to get a new man out of an old breeding system. You have to do it very scientifically. You have to do it in a very guided way that is not natural.
Right, but then it's very high maintenance, isn't
Okay,
it?
well then you get high quality. Okay, so let us be high maintenance, high quality people, and you just be the lower classes that didn't practice eugenics.
Right. So which country? I mean, I think some time ago we were talking about um, artificial wombs. Has anything happened on
Yes.
that front?
Well, I know that China said that they were going to make them. I don't know if they're true or not. But I mean, I'm still not off artificial wombs. I think that they need to be made, but I'm relying on them a lot less than I used to. And I'm relying more on building non-monogamous family systems and yeah, non-monogamous family systems. And I
Um,
mean, this is not for you, Claire. Yes, we're okay. So some people want to breed themselves into a eugenic elite, and you just don't want to be ruled over by them. So you're trying to stop superior people from practicing a superior religion that'll produce, if it's done properly. If you have an unnatural breeding program, you can become bigger, stronger, smarter, faster, healthier. Lots of things. You can get lots of really amplified powers if you do this
no,
in
but people don't want to do it that way because they have to pay extra for, all the stuff they need to do because
okay, well,
the
no, okay,
artificial wound,
Claire, your people,
artificial
there's plenty of
insemination.
eugenicists. There's a small group of eugenicists on this planet that would rather breed artificially than, so just let them. Okay, so what if there's
But
a
it's
few thousand,
degenerate.
what if there's a few thousand people on this earth breeding in this way in order to outcompete you? So what? Let us try. You're just jealous. You're jealous that
No,
you
no,
can't do what
because
we're
it's a
doing.
waste of
Yeah,
time.
no, then just let us do it our way. It's our
Okay,
religion.
well, I'm sure
Let us.
you'll be
Uh,
able to find, all kinds of gay men who want to be fathers really and are happy, and have money enough to pay for two separate homes.
okay, well, I talk about arcology, where these things would have to be made. So that's why people said, "Oh, are you trying to have a farm? You want to do it in a standardized, like, okay, like you wouldn't want everyone to have two homes. You get like all these gay men would have to get an apartment complex. It doesn't even need to be gay men, but if it was gay men, they could just get an apartment complex, and then that would be cheaper than getting a home for each of the wives and each of the families, and then they can do it standardized. They can make standardized meals, and that lowers costs of things. They can, really make it, if they do it industrial, they can do it at low cost. They can do it at lower cost if it's done in kind of like a machine factory kind of way, without
A
being
machine
cold.
factory.
Well, but
What
without
kind of
being,
woman do you think might be interested in this sort of
well,
arrangement?
all she gets, what does she get? She gets a home, she gets children, she gets finances, she can do what she wants, she can have a boyfriend,
Have,
she
have
can
you
get
ever
married.
asked a woman
She can
or
get
any woman?
married. Okay, well, let's see if they don't. If they
No,
don't do
no,
it for money.
you
Okay, well, let
have
me see.
you
Okay,
asked
Claire,
women or young people
Claire,
you
I
know
need to
about
find
doing this?
Claire.
You
I
never
need to
ask
find
any woman.
Claire. I need to find gay men who are more
Well,
interested.
you won't,
Wait,
right?
wait. I do find
If they
them, but
really wanted to have children,
no,
then
that's not. No, okay, well, that's not going to produce the new man. That's not
yeah,
going to produce
and
a new
actually, a woman would
humanity.
not want an ex-gay man to be the father of her
Okay, well,
child.
there's lots of fag
So
hags
it's
out
so
there that like women.
impractical.
There's lots of women out there that love
Why do you
homosexual
think you
men.
know better than
There's lots.
heterosexual
There,
people?
there
Why
are
do you
lots.
think you, Vincent? Why do you
Because
think
you
you
do
know
a bad
better?
job. Oh, so who am I supposed to look at? At whose parents?
Why do you think you're going
What
to do better?
heterosexual? Can you name one heterosexual couple I'm supposed to look to as the model for how heterosexuals know how
You
to
don't
do this?
need to.
Because
I mean, listen,
because they're all divorced. They're all divorced. They're all hate each other. They
no,
hate
you
their
can't even find
children.
a
They're
single gay man.
horrible.
You
Oh,
can't
oh,
even find a
no,
single
you
gay man
can't give me,
prepared to go
you
through with
can't
it.
point to a single heterosexual family that is the icon of heterosexual natural ability to raise children. You
Well,
can't point to a
I'm
single
sure
one.
I can,
What? Name one.
if
Name one. Is it yours? Are you supposed to be the model for
no,
heterosexuals?
no, I don't
Okay,
have to
so
be.
then whose is? Whose is? Whose is? Who's the model? Who is it?
Well, I guess Trump has quite a lot of
Oh, so
children. Well, he's your
okay.
president. He's your president, isn't he?
Okay, so when we look for the model of how to raise how heterosexuals know how to raise their children. You look at the
Well, I
Trump
can only think of
children.
the
So the
Walton,
Trump children. So
baby
Ivanka Trump is the height of heterosexual creation.
Well, it seems you're saying you want me to
Okay,
give
well, we're going
examples
to show.
of men.
Okay,
I
but
guess
it doesn't even need
Mormons.
to be gay men.
Mormons would
It
do
doesn't
it.
even need to be just gay men. It could be bisexual. It could be, one man with many
Do you
women.
know any? Do
It
you
it
know
does.
any?
Okay, well, people try these different polygamous relations all the time. First, they have to, this is people who want to be polygamous, number one. This is also people who are eugenicists. This is not for the general population. It's
Okay, so
not.
I guess it'll never take off
Yeah,
then.
no, but just because it's not for the general population doesn't mean it's not powerful or doesn't take off. That's your problem. You think everything is top down, masses, get everyone
Yes.
involved, every Tom, Dick, and Harry, and no, it doesn't have to always be like that. Especially if you're looking for quality, you know what I mean? Yes, it's easy, like to start a clothing factory where all the clothes are shit, and then just erect it really fast and no quality and everything is low quality and
What
it's so
makes you
easy and
think
cheap
you're
to
going to
make.
get
And
better
then, but
quality through your methods?
because it works in animal breeding, you get better quality through these
Well, I
methods.
mean, maybe heterosexual people don't want to be bred by the
Okay,
like
well
you
then, then they don't need to
You haven't
participate.
found any
Then they
gay
don't need to
man prepared to
participate.
go with your thing.
Yes, no, I have, but first of all, I'm not going to start approaching women yet. I don't have money. I have to just spread the
No, you don't
ideology.
have to approach women as if they're going to do it. You have to ask them, in theory, would you like this?
Okay, well, let's see. Let's see, and it would be different if the establishment was built. No, if the establishment was built, yes, I could definitely get any.
No, I'm
Yes,
not
okay.
asking you
If
to
I
build
no,
it.
I don't need to know. You're asking. You always ask about theory rather than actual real life. In actual real life, if I went to South America, if I went to South America, no, if I went to South America, if I went to South America and I said I will pay your way if you have my children, I could find a wife. I could. You can't take that away from me. Yeah, well, I could. So what's the problem?
If you find somebody sufficiently poor and desperate to come to America, yeah.
Or even in America, there's desperate poor women in America that would, do you think there's no white desperate poor women willing to do porn? Okay, well, what about the women who do porn? What about she's an ex-porn star and can't find a husband now? Okay, well, I will. I'll ask porn actresses. Actually, I think we should target porn actresses. Porn actresses, prostitutes, things like that. Women who are liberated. Okay, well, let's see. I'm sure porn stars. I don't talk to porn stars.
Well, you can talk. I mean,
Okay, well, let's see. What maybe there's women out there that would rather become mothers than porn stars, and that if they can get their way through.
So all you need to do is ask, women what they.
Okay, well, I'll start. Okay, well, I have to be around the right women. I'm not going to ask women that hang around your streams. I'm going to have to, I'm going to have to ask liberal women. I'm going to have to ask women that are nice with gay men, not nasty. And not many of the women that come on your streams are very nice with gay men. I have to admit, I don't.
Your own women. I can't provide them for you.
No, I'm not asking you to. I'm saying I'm not asking you to provide your own women. I'm just saying. Well, I'm not going to find them around here. Look, I have not. I've been working on the top part. Not getting the women is more like once you're established and you have something to offer. Pie in the sky. Okay, if you go to a woman with a pie in the sky story, okay, you're just upset that I'm too smart to go to women before I have anything to offer. That's what you're upset about. I'm too smart. I'm too smart to even start out because I know in America, if I was a billionaire right now, I could have 2 or 3 handmaiden wives in my apartment.
Well, not everybody's a handmaiden, right?
Okay, well, I would be able to find them and don't think I get. So you don't think if I had $1 billion that I could not find a single woman on this earth to bear my children? You think I couldn't?
I'm sure you could find.
Okay. So it's just finances. That's all. It's just finances. It's just finances. That's the only problem in the way. It's not anything else. No, the only problem I have in a breeding program is finances. That's the only problem that I'm facing. Nothing else.
You have a luxury belief.
Well, I just need to get, if I don't get finances or I don't get anyone else with finances or I don't influence anyone with finances, then it won't happen.
Well,
But
I'm not
everybody
even
needs a little bit,
asking you
and you
to
could
do
start with one
that.
woman. Okay, it's no more expensive for one man to take care of one woman in a breeding program than for them to do it the traditional way and get married. So it can be done, a breeding program could be done, a less complex one that would take a lot longer could be done on the same budget or even cheaper if they do it. If they did it cooperatively, they could do it even cheaper. If they did one man to one woman, they could do it even cheaper.
What do you mean?
If they did, instead of one man taking care of, well, the way I envision, I think it would be best if you had like a 3-to-2 ratio for like 3 men for every 2 women. The men would work and bring in the money and the women would reproduce. And in that way, you can still reproduce a lot, but you have extra income because you have one extra male there.
You think these men would happily live with each other?
No, they don't have to. That's the point. They don't have to live with each other. No, they don't have to live with each other. You think that like these things that people don't have. You just have no creativity. You think, well, we're all gonna just like cram into some nasty apartment, like that's my plan. Like no, okay, like so I live in an apartment. Okay, so what's up? Okay, so let's say that they were able to. They were able to
why
rent.
don't you ask a woman?
When I'll ask her when I have the cash, and then nobody will say no when I have the cash. No, I'm not. No, I do it. I'm not. I'm too smart. I'm too smart to go. I'm too smart. No, I'm too smart to go up to women and to say hi. No, if I had the money, I could do it. If I had the money, I could do it.
Of course you can do
Oh yeah, of course. So then I'm not worried. So I'm not worried. So okay, it's up to me to find finances. So let's drop it because it's up to me to find finances. And once I get the finances, we can talk about it again.
You're afraid to speak to women.
No, what do you mean? No, I'm not going. First of all, I don't have anything to offer her right now.
No, you don't have to offer her anything.
Yeah, I do. No, she's not going. If I just came to her with this theoretical idea of this compound that's not even, or this life for her that's not even built yet, why should she say yes? That's what straight men do. That's what straight men do. Straight men go. Straight men go to women with absolutely nothing and ask for marriage. I'd have to come to her with absolutely everything and ask her to not marry me, but bear my children and have a free life. And I don't care if she marries someone else. I don't care.
Well, but you don't seem to think, be thinking of the child. So what?
What do you mean?
Marry some other man, and you're happy with that?
Yes, I think it's good to have
a man who will bully your kid, and you don't.
Oh, please! I would not reproduce with a woman who's bringing bullies over to the house.
Well, how would you know? She might.
Because I would see the child every day. I would be in proximity to the child constantly.
Well, you
have
you have to live with a bastard, wouldn't you?
No, I don't care about living with. I don't care if it's a bastard. You know what? No. What do you mean I don't know him? It's my child. I'm talking like I would be around this child all the time, and I would not, I would not even allow a woman into the breeding program who's bringing bullies around children. There's we're not Ukraine, just looking for opening. See, you're opening up Walmart and thinking that, because every Tom, Dick, and Harry is going to walk through because you have no sifting system. We have a sifting system. We actually want the best high quality. So I'm not going to sift them through to find women who are going to bring bullies around the children.
Oh, you have very little direct knowledge of women because you don't have sex with them and don't want
yeah, well,
to,
that doesn't mean I can't choose a woman who's not going to allow her child to be mistreated. I could choose a woman who won't, because I'll know her as a friend. I'll know her, probably I'll know her better than 2 couples know each other. I want her to be psychologically examined. I want her to have genetic tests. I want to question her about her history, all these different kinds of things. This is all very important in a breeding program. Before you make the decision, it's based on like colder calculation. So I probably know her very deeply. She would have to, and part of this, could tell.
He
Just
must
go
be in
why?
some deep relationship
So you
with
think
her to dare.
you think the only way to know someone is to sleep with them? That's the only way to know somebody?
Well, if you want him to be the other parent of your child,
Okay,
I
so
think
you think you can't know? So in your world, you cannot know who a person is without fucking them?
well, you'd have to be quite intimate with them, and then
No,
you would
I
have
don't
to
have to
see
fuck
them.
the. I don't have to fuck a woman to know that she's a good mother.
How, well, have you
How
got
do you
much
know? So
experience in?
so you can't find out if a man's going to be a good father unless you fuck him? That you just can't know? You're not good at it?
Well,
What
he
if
might
another
be a
woman?
good father, but maybe not
Uh,
to my children. I mean, it
so
depends on
you
whether
have to,
he's
okay, so
prepared to
you have to have
marry
sex with him.
me. He might be a perfectly good father, but to some other woman.
Okay, well, you could tell if someone, usually you could tell if someone is going to be a good parent if you know them well enough that you don't need to have
Whom
sex with
have
them to
you ever
determine this,
known well
to
enough?
determine, to determine well enough of my, people that I grew up with, I guess, but right now, okay, I have a few friends that I guess I would trust to have children or that I could say I think that they were good to be parents, cousins. Claire, you always throw this in my face, like, who do you know? Like, I don't know people and haven't lived and don't have cousins or uncles or coworkers or any of these different kinds of things. People I met, like, people that have children or don't have children. And, I lived, Claire. I really did live in this world.
Yes, but the point is, you may know so and so who is a good mother, whatever. But it's like, okay, and she's a good mother to someone else. It's
Okay.
about
Okay,
what
but you
kind
don't
of
need
woman
to, you don't,
you are
uh,
going to attract. Don't you understand? It's not about, oh, there's, in theory, this wonderful mother who is a mother to somebody
I don't.
else's
Yeah.
children.
Well, I could choose. Look, I could choose a woman to be the mother of my child, and not need to have sex with her. That's totally possible.
Well, maybe the woman might think, you don't want to marry me?
No. Well, then
No?
she wouldn't be. She wouldn't be a eugenicist involved in a eugenics breeding
Well, maybe
program.
it's not eugenic to
Yes, it is eugenic.
have children in the
It
way
is.
that you
Okay,
propose.
you don't know what eugenics is. You think that the only way is to just let everyone just
No,
select them. No,
I'm saying
no
marriage.
selection, no direction. Just whoever, mommy hooked you up with when you were 11, like, is who you need to, marry.
No, I've
Or,
always I've said for a long time that marriageability is marriage
no,
is a
it's not.
eugenic
There are
practice.
plenty of disgusting people who are married with children.
Yeah, but fewer and fewer because we live in a matriarchy and nobody even thinks it's necessary to get a
No,
marriage
it
since
never.
people are having children. So they have bastards, and that's why everybody's getting stupider and more corrupt and evil.
Okay, well, go do it your way. We'll do it our way, and we'll see who comes out on top. And if sometimes all the administrators of a society are one race or religion, and the workers and the people who uphold it physically are another religion or race or social class or have a different kind of mentality. So it's if you do not want to create a new man and reinvent humanity and gain and function, human function, then don't do it our way. Do it the old way. Nobody's going to stop you. I've told you, everyone, I make fun of that woman, these anti-eugenicists that complain that they're going to have all the sickly babies and not smart babies. Well, I guess you get what you pay for. I guess you get what you pay for.
Well, it's up to the men really to restore the patriarchy and not, be happy with these, you know, with pumping out bastards, right? You
Well,
know,
then go
and the
do
women
that.
need to.
Okay, well then go do that. Don't get in our way of the way we want to breathe.
Well,
Don't
why don't we
get.
talk about our there's a gang of you.
Okay, there's not a gang, but there's people who. I'm not the only one who believes in selective breeding. Maybe they don't believe in doing it the way I do it, but there are other people who believe in selective breeding, and I don't knock their system. I mean, there's this Chinese guy that believes in selective breeding, but no, he believes more in a different kind of breeding where you scramble all the genes from the different races and stuff. I don't agree with that, but he wants to do it in a different way. There are people interested in different kinds of breeding systems, and we'll see what
Mhm.
happens to us. We'll see what happens to us. Maybe we'll make it, maybe we won't. But I mean,
Okay.
if it happens, it happens.
Mhm.
Anyway, what are you doing now?
Well, I'm thinking of the next thing to do, which is to see what's going on other channels, because really, it is. I'm just surprised that you don't understand that the Abrahamic God was conjured up to make people marry and stay married. I mean,
Yeah,
and not be
okay, yes,
gay.
and it worked, and okay, and it worked, and I'm just saying okay, keep doing it your way. Nobody's getting in your way. You just want to stop anyone else from trying anything different.
Well, I want to solve the problem, and
No,
you're
but you
just
want to
looking at
stop.
it
You
in
want
one
to
way.
stop anyone.
Right.
Yeah, but you only want people to do it your way and no other way.
Well, yes, because otherwise, nothing would get done. Everybody
Okay,
will be
well,
just
what does
going in
what
different
you just
directions.
know? You just know that nobody wants your way, and if there's an alternative, they won't do it your way. That's why you're scared.
No, I'm not scared. I'm just
Yeah. Okay.
saying,
Well, you're just scared. You're
but
scared of competition. You don't want competition because you know you can't. Like nobody wants your shit.
well, the competition isn't you so much, Vincent, as the people who
Okay. Well,
don't
this would
want
be
to have
better.
children.
This would be a better competition. If this becomes competition, then you just don't want any. No, not my competition. You don't
No,
want any competition, even if
it's
it's
the
structured.
unmarried
Even if
parents
it's
who treated
structured.
as
Even if
second
it's
parents.
like a
They're
structured program,
their
you don't
competition.
want it. You don't even want it. Even if it does have good quality, good results, you don't want it. You just want it your way, and you want to prevent anyone else from trying anything different. You don't even
Well,
care
I
if it
am
would work
promoting
better.
my
If it
system.
works better, you would still be against it. You'd be like, no, no, we
How
can't
would
do it
you
this way.
know?
Okay, well, you would
How
be against it even if it did work.
well, you can't prove that it would work better.
Okay, but would you be against it even if it worked?
Well, I would have no choice but to, submit to the winner. But I
Okay, so
just
let us
don't see how
try.
your
Okay, so we'll
program is going
try.
to pay to
Okay, so
win.
let us try. So just don't get in the way of us trying. Just stop, or there's going to be a fight.
Well, I'm, platforming your idea, so I am helping you.
Well, yeah, I know, but I don't think you're going to be able to. I think that getting a few people involved in a breeding program is easier than spreading that whole secular Quranist legal system. I think,
Well, okay, but I mean, can you find somebody prepared to discuss it with
yes,
me?
okay, that's different. No, but yes, I discuss it with people, but and it's not just, it doesn't just need, look, I hope that certain Beyondist ideas get picked up beyond me. I mean, people don't need to be like following my exact recipe of how to do this, but if Beyondism generally gets picked up, is what I'm hoping for too. I would be happy if that happened, if it spread, and it's spread a little. But look, I am the person that everyone told me that no one cared about Noahide laws, and now lots of people tell me that they care about it. So I started with Beyondism. Let's see what I can do with it. I have had success in making small ideas become big. So let's see if I can make a small idea become big.
Okay. Well, good luck with finding, a gay man wanting to do it the way you say. Have you got that yet?
Yes,
Okay. And is he a wealthy man?
I don't want to say.
Okay, I mean that's the thing, isn't it? It's not just any gay man prepared to,
No, no.
entertain that.
Excuse. This is you. You know what? Yeah. As soon as when people start congregating together and the power start at least something happening, you want to come in. And are any of you rich? Like this is the way you think. Nothing can start small with you. Nothing can start small with you.
Well,
Nothing.
I'm pretty
You don't.
small.
You would never. You would never be. You're bad for the West because you're not able to look at You would never be able to look at a small startup company and be like, I see potential in you, and I'm going to invest in you. You
I
want
see
them to already.
potential in
You want
secular
them already to
Quranism.
be big. You want them to already be big. You want everything to
No.
be like Big Daddy comes in and dumps billions into your project. No, you would never be able to start small. You would never be able to start a small business.
I have started small.
No, you don't. You
I mean,
don't think
I'm
small.
surprised at
You
this
don't think
unfair
small. You don't.
criticism.
You don't think small. Your first step is, I'm happy that I at least, even if I had only one person I could talk to, that's at least a first step. They don't need to be a billionaire. That's not the point. The point is that then you find the next one and the next one and the next one and the next one, and then eventually maybe either all of you combine to have wealth, or one of them is more wealthy than the rest of you. Like, lots of things can happen. You can't just you're very dismissive of, and that's a lot of things. That's a very, American thing of, starting out really small and also having a little bit of a hard time in the beginning and not being so successful right away, and maybe even having to go years of not having success, but being, resilient, having a resilient strategy until you finally make it through. Like, that's just not you, Claire.
Oh, well, what do you think I've been doing?
You think that the only way that you're going to get anywhere is if somebody big in the media or the government starts shoving it down everyone's throat.
Of course. What's wrong with that?
Okay,
I want it done as
that's
soon as
not
possible.
that's not starting at the bottom and working your way up.
Well, it's still starting at the bottom, because the idea had to come from somewhere, and then it had to be opposed by all the dumbos who don't want to marry and become married parents.
Okay, well,
anyway.
you know what? I don't think there's even one secular Quran, so don't go after people who have one follower when you don't even have one.
Well, I'm just trying to find the practicality of your ideas.
Okay, well, let's see. Okay, well, let's
your
see.
Ideal demographic, which would be, a gay man who was, money to spare, and wouldn't.
Well, he would have to in order to have children anyway. You want men with money to spare to have children. You don't want men with, no money. So they need money to spare anyway.
Able to run 2 households.
Right. Who said he has to run? But he would be, the responsibility would be shared. So let's say they get an apartment and it's one woman who's taken care of by 2 or 3 gay men. So that wouldn't be that expensive on him. That wouldn't be that expensive on him to pay 1/3 of a woman's life and wages. And he has to pay 1/3 of a woman's life and wages, and then he keeps his own apartment. That's not that expensive. That's not horrible.
So this woman would be bearing the child of 3 gay men.
Yes.
And being the mother, and without actually having male support,
yes, she would. She would be paid for. There would be a male. One of the fathers would be at the house probably every day of the week. So I don't see what the problem is. She would have 3 males supporting her.
I guess that's rich material for a sitcom when it happened.
Well, something has to happen, or it's just going to be a shithole. It's going to just, for gay people and for women, and it's just do it or perish, and it's change or perish. It's evolve or perish. It's but you can't win the way you are. Like Rabbi Watton said, you cannot win the way you are.
Well, nobody's heard of Rabbi Watton, and he isn't a proper rabbi.
Okay, well, he did predict, that if the Nazis didn't change their ways and adopt Jewish practices, that they would be eliminated, and he was right. And his advice is very good. He just, he has very good advice, and his advice is to look at the enemy and see what they're doing that is making them so powerful and copy it. And so I'm listening to Rabbi Harry Watton. That's all I'm doing.
So he's saying, well, who did he copy from, and
who copy from?
Well, Rabbi Watton.
Rabbi Watton said the Nazis had to copy Jewish ways of doing things if they wanted to win the war.
And what did they do?
They didn't evolve. They wanted to stay who they were. They tried to remain the Nazis that they were. They didn't try to change their program, their approach, their tactics, anything like that, and they lost the war.
So what should they have done?
Well, he said that they should have stopped turning everyone into their enemies, and if they had a problem with the Jews, they shouldn't have made it like everyone else's problem too. Meaning, what he said was, okay, so you don't like the Jews, but you've associated us with all the other races, communism, democracy, everything else on this earth. So you turned, 20 million Jews or whatever it was, 14 million Jews into billions and billions of Jews because you labeled anything that's not you the Jew. And, he said the Jews are better at making, democratic alliances and, equality and preaching equality and things like that. And I think, the Nazis probably would have learned a little bit more if they had been more cooperative with other races and didn't say, well, you're all just part of the Jewish plot. Okay, so you turn every black man into part of the Jewish plot, right? So then now not only do you have to deal with Jews, now you have to deal with blacks. And then you turn every one of these people into the Jewish plot. Okay, every gay person is part of the Jewish plot. Well, now you have to deal with, all these gay people are now part of, are part of your enemy, just making everybody your enemy. He said, if you're going to make everybody your enemy, you're not going to win this war. And they did make everybody their enemy, and they didn't win the war.
Oh, that was because the British begged the Americans to come and help them.
Well, yeah, but, Nazi Germany, Nazi Germany declared war on the United States first. So,
well, yeah, I guess, if they didn't want empire, then I guess they would have been, Hitler would, might have died a natural death. But because he couldn't wait.
Okay, well, I think Rabbi Harry Watton gave very good advice, and I think that, he said, learn from the Jews, and I do learn from the Jews. I study them, and I like their way of that. All you need to do is outlaw crimes, and then the rest is up to you. Let people be creative about what to do with building their governance systems. Instead of building the perfect governance system, allow people to build their own governance systems. You know what I mean?
Well, they do anyway. But anyway, scapegoating is a Jewish idea. So, and then I guess the Nazis adopted the scapegoating idea of Jews.
No, the idea of scapegoating has been around even before Jews. So Jews didn't invent, they invited the scapegoat, the goat that actually is killed, that ceremony they created that it's named after. But the idea of scapegoating is much older than Judaism.
Well, I don't know. Well, that's a name. I mean, it's in the Torah.
I know, but they didn't. Okay, blaming somebody else for problems is not. Jews didn't invent that.
But I suppose they invented the concept of the scapegoat that gave the name, a special name attached to an animal.
Yes, I know, but I mean, they didn't invent the actual, whatever it's called, whatever it was called before scapegoating, blaming someone else is not inherently Jewish.
Mm-hmm.
You think blaming other people is inherently Jewish and they invented it?
No, but they gave it a special name.
Yes.
And it's come into the English language, So,
Yeah.
but I agree about using the best available ideas to extend the life of your group or correct its errors. And that's, of course, religion. Religion is a system of rules that could solve a whole bunch of problems, such as a low birth rate. Once we know why people don't want to have children, it's because that A, the government doesn't support them, and B, it's a lot of work for dubious benefit after the government has taken away parental authority.
I think you mean child
particularly
abuse.
Paternal
They've taken away child abuse. Look, nobody stops you from forcing your children to eat or not forcing, but telling your children they have to eat vegetables. Nobody stops you from teaching your children math, science. Nobody even stops you from teaching your child your religion. What is the state stopping you from doing? Besides, okay, your child is gay, and what, you want to send it to a camp for that, and you think that you're being oppressed?
Well, it's really the idea of passing on your
Okay, but you don't
own
no, you
ideas,
don't have the right.
and you're against that.
Sexuality. You can't. If your child is gay, I mean, I'm sorry, you can't abuse it for that. You can't try to that's something that's like a deep seated. That's like you're trying to change something in them that's natural. That they're naturally like that, and it's just how they came out.
Well,
And
I'm
you
not
can't.
proposing forced marriages.
Okay, well, you can't, if you're making them feel as though they're doing something wrong, or you're trying to make them feel uncomfortable, or you're trying to, send them
That's
to
not
some kind of
allowed
camp.
either under your system.
What?
That's not allowed either.
Not necessarily under my system, but no, I didn't. That's not outlawed. But
you're going to call it child abuse, aren't you?
Well, I think it is child abuse to
okay. So you're going to call so parents who tell the child off about stuff, later on the child can sue its parents. It's a very American thing, right? A child suing its parents.
Well, it depends on what they told them off for. I mean, if they were okay, so let's say your child is a different, race than you because you slept with someone from a different race, and now your child is a half-breed. I think if you went around calling your child a half-breed, that, you should have the child taken away from you. You can't abuse a child mentally like that. You are a half-breed. You know what I mean? It's not proper. Yeah, there's certain things you just cannot say to your children.
Really? Okay, so
that's abusive to make a child feel as though it's inferior because it's a half-breed.
Well, parents do the sort of thing. You're stupid. You're naughty. You're late. You're untidy.
No, that's different. That's different. It's different to say that you're this because you're a half-breed. You're inferior because you're a half-breed.
Or saying that a child was an accident.
Well, you shouldn't tell your children that. That's wrong to tell your children that.
Well, I mean, I'm sure lots of hurtful things are said between family
okay, well, you
members.
Shouldn't say that. I know, but you shouldn't. You shouldn't. You shouldn't. I'm not saying that you should outlaw telling. Of course, people tell their children all the time, "I never wanted you," or what I mean, "I don't love you," and these different kinds of things. I think with these things, it depends on how psychologically damaging it is to the child. If the child is showing significant psychological distress and is going into decline over this, then yeah, I think there should be an intervention. If the child is maybe not necessarily, it would depend. It depends on how much distress the child is showing.
Well, nobody will know, right? If it's not observed.
Well, no, it depends.
It's like, okay, parents will just say, well, fuck that. I'm not just going to be some breeding machine, not able to tell my children anything before, the state intervenes. Presumably I'm having children for the government, and the government is, looking over my shoulders and making sure, I know I'm just a breeder, not the parent. So, it's all these, little gestures of disrespect that make people not want to have children.
Do you think people think like that? Are people who
adding to it?
People who just want to do things to their children that seem detrimental.
In your opinion, and you're not
well,
even
to a certain degree of the population, but liberal people don't get scared about having children and their children being taken away from them. Because they're not forcing these religions or sexualities or anything on them. So, they're not worried about it. They're not, it's not people that are not going to be indoctrinating their children into hateful ideologies and stuff like that. They don't worry about having children.
Well, hateful ideology is a matter of perspective, right? I mean,
Well,
some people
I don't
might think
know.
what you're proposing is hateful, and you obviously
Um,
think, being Jewish or Muslim is hateful,
the
and that's
the
why you actually need a state religion. But I know you have your First Amendment, so I guess secular Quranism is the only state religion. Sorry, the only um, Abrahamic religion that actually supports freedom of belief. I mean, it is the only one, really. I can't, Hindu scripture doesn't support freedom of belief, neither does, Buddhism, and neither, and we know that Jews, well, they executed Jesus for blasphemy and they burnt each other at the stake. So there's only one religion that's sort of, firm enough about, the basic things. We'll say, yeah, okay, you can have your religion, you just have to live under Sharia. And as for gay people, as long as they don't commit an public indecency offence, that they will be allowed to go about their business and live together, and I mean, it seems fair enough to me.
Okay, well, see, I actually have to go, Claire. So
Okay,
I'm going to talk to you soon. Okay.
all right. Take care, Vincent.
Bye.
Bye.